Hello, welcome everybody. SF Live, a breaking news special, December 23rd. I didn't expect to be back online today, but we got surprised by a big news release by Maritime Resources this morning, and I reached out to the company and we set this up in no time. It's important to get an update from Garett Macdonald himself personally. I'll be joined by him in a couple seconds here, but before we get started, please make sure to follow us here on Twitter, hit the like and subscribe button. Also follow us on YouTube, leave a comment, follow the channel, smash the subscribe button there as well. Leave a thumbs up as well. That way we know that you like our contents. Really appreciate it. Now, let me switch over to Garett Macdonald and let's discuss... Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. I'm on the mobile setup, so still working out the kinks here. Just the laptop here on the right, the camera up here. So Garett, thanks for joining us. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. How are you doing?
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you and everyone. Yeah, doing well, thank you.
That's great to see you. Thanks for the Christmas present this morning, an early delivery. I was surprised by the news that you actually, A, put something out this morning, and B, something of importance like that, in my opinion, is you acquired the Nugget Pond mill from Rambler. Run us through the press release, run us through the highlights there.
Yeah, so what we acquired, or will acquire with this transaction. So the announcement was for a letter of intent that we signed with Rambler that included the purchase of their non-core gold assets. So several things, and including the Nugget Pond gold plant. So this is an idle gold circuit that is part of their metallurgical facility or their process plant. It was the original gold circuit that was used by Richmont to process ore from Hammerdown years ago. So it's been sitting there in care and maintenance, idle for a number of years, and that's part of the deal here today that we announced, is to acquire that gold circuit, which we would look to refurbish and use for Hammerdown in the future. There are a number of additional non-core assets as well as part of this deal, including the Lac Pelletier gold project in Quebec, the Owl Creek joint venture in Timmins is one of them as well, and a number of royalty properties and interests throughout the Abitibi Greenstone Belt primarily.
So first things, like I look at the purchase price, right? So, okay, $2 million US plus $500,000 in shares sounds like an amazing deal, right? So it sounds super cheap, but what do you actually get for that money, and what do you have to do or put in to make it usable?
Yeah, so we'll talk about the Nugget Pond gold circuit first. In our PA study that we announced at the end of February or March of this year, it looked at a restart of the Nugget Pond gold circuit. So the capital cost to refurbish that plant and install a grinding circuit alongside the plant to allow us to run the gold circuit independently and concurrently with Rambler's operations at no impact to Rambler, right? So those capital costs are included in that PA study. The way we had set up that PA when we did it was that we, with Rambler's agreement, is that we would refurbish that plant, use it for the life of Hammerdown, and return the asset back to Rambler. But in this case here, that was the PA study back in March. We're now looking at an acquisition of that gold plant. So we would own the asset, the leaching circuit itself, and be able to use that for Hammerdown as we develop the project and store tailings in the permitted tailings pond that's there. So what that really does for us is it really helps with our timeline. We are in permitting now for our project registration back in July. So we're going through the permitting process now, and this really kind of puts the last piece of the puzzle in place to have the process plant and tailings solution in the overall plan.
Okay, so when I look at the cost, obviously PA, does that have any impact on the cost? Like, what's the advantage of you owning it now versus toll milling through them?
Well, I think it's just that we can, control our own future a little bit here with that, rather than toll milling. So I think that's very helpful in respect to the costs. There were no costs built into the PEA with respect to an acquisition. So this would be considered a sunk cost before we start into the feasibility work. So really the capital cost to refurbish the plant and put up a grinding circuit that would allow us to run it independently of Rambler's operation will be, there's really no change in that. That's what we thought of in the PA, and we're now going to evaluate it at a higher level of detail in the feasibility.
Okay, so one thing you mentioned is you control more of your own destiny, and I think in regard to that also is in regard to permitting. What does that mean? Like, what's the timeline? How is that changing, or what kind of positive impact do you expect from it?
Yeah, so the timeline for the permitting, we're in the permitting process now, and I've told investors that I think we probably will be into the later part of next year to receive all the permits we need to start construction. So this acquisition or this announcement this morning of the LOI, I think just helps secure that timeline by having an access to a permitted tailings facility, an existing gold circuit that's sitting there as an idle asset. It's a well-proven asset as well. There's historically over 97% recovery on hammer down feed for 4 years when it was operating.
Yeah. So let's break down the bit of the acquisition value, what you're buying there. I always like what's the replacement value of what you got there, right? So one thing is a permitted tailings facility is probably invaluable, right? But what else is there? Like, let's call it salvage value. If you had to strip it down and sell it, like, what would be the replacement value, salvage value there? Just try to get a grasp of valuation, maybe.
Salvage value is different than replacement value. But if you had to build, if we had to build our own plant at Hammerdown, for instance, let's say that, I would say you're in probably the $20-30 million range to do something like that. But then you're also looking at a longer timeline as well to permit a tailings pond at Hammerdown on basically a brand new site. So, this way here, we're able to utilize what's available locally. There is a process plant here. There's a tailings pond nearby that's permitted. And that's what we're trying to do overall with the companies, to utilize what's available. We have a brownfield mine site, and now we're adding in an existing process plant in a tailings solution, all within, basically a mine plan or a business plan that was already operated once before by Richmond. So it's something that everyone knows. The regulators understand it as well. And it's a good way for us to get started, and that's been the overall intent.
Fantastic. And then, do you expect any shortening of the timeline at all, permitting, or do you think, okay, this is just going to stay it, but you have more control over it?
I think the latter, Kai. I don't see any change in what we're doing, so I think it just complements it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the question I had on the facility in Nugget Pond. Like, we'll see where it goes. Feasibility studies coming out in first half of 2021. Do you have more guidance on certain Q1, Q2, April, May, June, July, February, March?
Yeah, so we're probably looking towards the latter half of Q2, maybe even into Q3. We are waiting on a number of assays back from the lab. They'll be coming in throughout this month in January. We'll start to see some more news flow coming back in January when we get over the holiday season here. We've been drilling quite a bit in the latter part of December here, in and around the Hammerdown project, in between Hammerdown and the Orion deposit. So there's a number of things going on. We're actually just finishing off a new geophysical survey as well. So our drills now are taking a little bit of a break. We're coming back to work here in early January, and actually it'll be quite a push in the first 3 months of the year to explore for new things around the Hammerdown project. Yep.
Great. Let's take on the agreement that you reached with Rambler today. It came also with royalties and a couple more projects, right? I'm going to let you choose which one you want to focus on, but there's more value in there than just the Nugget Pond mill, right?
Yeah, no, we think so too. So it was a package deal of some non-core assets that Rambler had, specifically around gold projects. And this all came with an acquisition that Rambler did several years ago with a company called Thundermint. So Thundermint had a number of assets all around the country. And some of the gold projects that are included in this transaction are the Lac Pelletier gold project in Rouyn-Noranda. So this is right in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, a few kilometers south of the Glencore's Horn Smelter, just north of the Cadillac Fault. It's a great property that's really been kind of dormant for a number of years. There's a historic resource of nearly 7 grams there, 250,000 ounces, 3,000 meters of underground development in place. It's a really interesting project. And, further along strike from that, just a little bit towards Val-d'Or, we'll talk about the royalties for a second. Other couple of royalties that were along for the ride here when this deal on ground that are currently owned by O3 Mining and their projects, Goldhawk and Val-d'Or, namely. There's a number of other royalties as well throughout the country, actually. So all in all, I think it's a pretty attractive deal for us with a gold plant, a number of properties, and a royalty package as well.
I can't shake the feeling that you went into the Rambler office with a gun in your hand and saying, "Okay, give me this," All right, I can't shake that feeling. There seems to be a lot of value in that transaction. So not just the Nugget Pond mill, but also the royalties that I'm sure you can sell and use to not dilute any further, maybe progressing along, because you got to repurchase or refinance the $2 million US, I guess, at one point. So.
No, I don't look at it that way. I think it's a win-win for both companies. Of course, they're non-core assets for them, but as our business is gold, and I think we're able to do something with them. So no, it was a very good relationship that we have with Rambler. Certainly a win-win for both companies.
Well, they got stock in Maritime as well, and ideally that stock's going to re-rate, right? So fingers crossed for that. I don't think we have anything else to cover. This is just a breaking news special. We'll get you back on in early 2021. We'll talk about some assay results, hopefully coming out by then, from what you mentioned, Hammerdown and Orion from that area. Also maybe some from Whisker Valley. There's still some outstanding from Whisker Valley, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll get you back on in early January. I'm going to continue my holiday here. I'm going to open a beer in a second, and I'm glad I haven't started drinking at lunch, so that we could do this, because it's already 4:11 here. So in the afternoon, I'm in Germany, so that's why we're later this afternoon. Really appreciate Garett. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for clarifying a couple things and running us through the news today. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, have a great time with the family, and we'll catch up early in the new year. And Happy New Year, everybody, as well. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Guy, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining us. This was SF Live. This was a breaking news special with Garett Macdonald of Maritime Resources. So make sure to follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube, hit the alert and subscribe button, leave a comment, leave a like. Really important to us to see what you like and what you think. Also, what do you think of the Maritime acquisition today? Leave a comment. We'll get you more feedback and more information there if needed as well. So thanks so much. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you all in January.